this is the NCS open house meet and greet. We do these every month. Every second one is open house, and the others are members only. This particular one is going to be a fantastic, one of my favorite kinds of open house, and that is a member spotlight. We've done these before. Tonight's member spotlight is going to be on Hector Rodriguez. This is the kind of conversation that you have kind of bumping into someone at the Rubens that you haven't met, and sort of ask them, what do you do? How did you get into this? It's not a formal interview, and it's not hard hitting. It's very much a casual shop talk, and kind of getting to meet your fellow members of the NCS. We had. I should mention Jaman Nicholas, who was hoping to join us this evening to conduct this interview, but he's had to cancel at the last minute, unfortunately, due to some circumstances unavoidable. But I should mention that he has a fantastic podcast for anyone interested in cartooning. It's basically, it's him and two other cartoonists talking shop, talking comics, cartooning. It's called Pencil to Pencil. I'm just putting the link in the chat now. If anyone wants to subscribe to that, it's a great podcast. He will be doing some interviews for us in the future for the member spotlight for NCS's virtual meet and greets. But yeah, tonight he couldn't make it. So Pencil to Pencil, be sure to subscribe to that one. This organization, the NCS, if you aren't familiar with us, we are the largest organization of cartoonists in the world. Thank you for anyone who came along tonight who hasn't been to one of these before, whether you're a new member of the NCS or just an enthusiast or a potential, inquiring cartoonist who's curious about what we do and who we are. You can find out all the information about us and what we do, and also how to join, at the link in the chat, which is nationalcartoonists.com. We go all the way back to 1946, and the National Cartoonist Society roster of members is pretty much everyone you can name in the history of cartooning over the last century. The primary purpose of the NCS is to advance the ideals and standards of professional cartooning in its now very wide and broad many forms, to promote and foster a social, cultural, and intellectual interchange among professional cartoonists of all types, and to stimulate and encourage interest in and acceptance of the art of cartooning by aspiring cartoonists, students, and the general public. So here we are in the 21st century doing this over Zoom. We do have in-person meetups. Every chapter in the National Cartoonist Society roster of regional chapters have their individual in-person and virtual meetups. And we obviously have our big annual national meetup, which is, of course, the Reuben Awards, which is a conference, a session of conferences, and a big awards night that we've been doing every year, with the exception of the pandemic, for 76 years. So this recent one was done in Kansas City in September, on the 16th and 17th. Thank you for everyone here who did attend. I can see some faces here of people I recognize who came along. For anyone who didn't, next year we polled the membership of the NCS to see what their preference would be, and it looks like a 2-day conference sometime in September on a Friday and a Saturday. So if you're planning your year out for 2023, that was the majority preference of everyone that we polled. And so we are hoping that next year we can hold the event somewhere, probably we're looking New Jersey, but we haven't looked anything in. But just putting that in your head now so you can mentally plan for the next 12 months. I know that a lot of you plan far in advance, so it's always good to know. Yes, we missed you too, Charles Brubaker, in the chat. By the way, feel free in the chat if you want to introduce yourselves. I did want to, just before we get started, are there any NCS members who are new members who would like to introduce themselves and tell us who you are and what you do, just before we get started? Are there any? Put your hand up like this if you're a new member. Oh, Dee, okay. I'm going to unmute you, Dee. Just give us a hello and tell us who you are and what you do. I'll need you to unmute. Sorry.
Okay.
There you go.
Thankfully, the computer told me I was still muted.
There you go.
My name is Dee Fish, cartoonist living in Western Pennsylvania, and I'm currently working on a weekly webcomic called Finding Dee, which is a semi-autobiographical humor strip about the trials and tribulations of trying to make it in comics and deal with the pressure of coming out in your 40s as transgender and find a punchline in every messed up situation that could happen as a result.
Sounds like a fantastic. I have seen your comic, so I recommend everyone check it out. It's really, really great. Welcome, Dee. We're lucky to have you in the NCS. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Now, is there anyone else who is a new member? Oh, here we go, David Gomberg. I'll get you to, I'm sorry, unmute, unmute your microphone. Zoom is being a little zealous with mute, so sorry about it. David, welcome.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, my name is Dave Gomberg. I'm in Ringo's, New Jersey. It's on the western side of New Jersey, almost in the Delaware River. And yeah, it's been a long career, not doing cartooning, but I've really enjoyed doing cartooning. It's really, my focus is on, at least right now, on single panel gag cartooning, and I'm loving it. So, and I met a number of the NCS members, so you guys are really, really cool. So, yeah, look forward.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. Thanks, David. All right. If there's no one else, I can't see any hands up.
I am.
Oh, there you go. Is it Denise?
Yes. Hey.
Hi, Denise. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? So I'm also new to NCS. I'm straddling both worlds. I'm a technology executive, and I've had comic strips for probably the last 30 years. The project I'm working on right now is a single panel, multi-panel called One Company. And it talks about some of the trials and tribulations of living in business. So it's like Dilbert with a little bit more snarkiness and Far Side.
That's a great elevator pitch. I love that. That's nice. I love your backdrop too, by the way. We got some fans. By the way, if anyone does want to put their social media handles in the chat or their website, by all means, if you have a comic, a web comic, if you have a Instagram or a Facebook or a TikTok or whatever it is, feel free to put it in the chat. We love to have our members sort of see each other's work and follow each other. That's a big part of what the NCS is. We support each other. And yeah, and we love seeing new members work. So welcome, Denise. And we are going to get started. I'm going to hand over to our wonderful host this evening, Karen Evans, who is our national rep in the NCS. Karen is going to be at the helm this evening. I'll be behind the scenes pushing buttons and things, but I'm going to hand over to Karen, who is much better at me at these things. But welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here. And enjoy this member spotlight. See you.
Awesome. Good to see everyone. So I'm getting over a bit of a flu, so I sound really rough, but I'm here and I'm present, and I'm super excited for this member spotlight, not only because this member is doing phenomenal work, but is an excellent example of someone who's launched recently as an NCS member and has just immediately plugged into the community and already contributing so much and interacting with all of us here as a member. And his work is just of benefit to us. And I hope he feels that our work as an organization is of benefit to him. So the goal of the member spotlight is to give you a little sampling of some of our members and the great work they are up to. I'd like to do a little intro. So we are spotlighting Hector Rodriguez this evening. He is the creator of the comic book series El Peso Hero. He is the co-founder of the Texas Latino Comic Con. He is co-editor for Chispa Comics. He is also director of creative development for the Masked Republic. And on top of that, manages to continue to be committed as a bilingual educator in the Dallas area. So if that didn't blow your mind, wait until you get to hear a little bit more about the work that he's doing. And welcome, Hector.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. Great honor to be amongst the greats here at the National Cartoon Society.
Awesome. So like Chatfield said, this is sort of like if we had bumped into each other at the Rubens and we're just getting to meet each other, the kinds of conversation we may have. So my first question to you is, at what point did you know comics was something that you wanted to do? Like, how did you get into the comics world?
Oh my gosh. Well, my dad was in the, he's a vet, military vet. And so he would bring home Mad Magazine. And so I fell in love early on, 4 or 5 with the sequential art medium, right? And himself, he would collect Sergeant Rock and Sergeant Fury, Combat GI Combat, and so he loved the military comics, and so I kind of had that hook very early on within for comic books. Unfortunately, I live in the border area where there were not many comic books. I mean, the only comic books were at a mom and pop VHS store next to the baseball cards, Um, but it wasn't until we moved to Central Texas and College Station, Texas, where, yes, I mean, there were dedicated comic book stores, and each Friday they would take us to go buy comics. Um, and so, yeah, you become a love.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we just had background noise there. You're
Okay,
good.
yeah, and so you love the medium, you pay respect, and then sooner or later you have that that feeling, that urge to create your own stories sequentially.
Yeah. So what have you worked on? Because you got into comic books specifically, and it sounds like partially because you had an inspiration for that format. But you've been working in comic books. So tell us a little bit about your work on El Peso Hero.
Yeah, well, with El Peso Hero, I've been working on El Peso Hero for over 10 years now. My own independent comic book launch of my own indie small press, Rio Bravo Comics. And so El Peso Hero started out as a web comic 2011. And so I was producing it as, by, releasing pages. I would, pencil, ink, color, letter, publish the pages myself, just, guerrilla comic book making, I would just scan my big pages down and, Photoshop, digital inks and all that. And so I was gathering a following through the webcomic format. It wasn't until I had enough pages to have the first El Peso Hero comic book, which I printed out 500 for Houston's Comic Palooza 2012, and I sold out all of them, for the exception of the few copies I held on just for my own. And so and also with the story is basically a Mexican American vigilante hero on the border fighting cartels, dealing with immigration issues, and the need for immigration reform, and dealing with a lot of aspects of border life too. And so that really got the attention of the Latino media, and also by backing of the Latino community as well. And from there on, El Peso Hero, within the past 11 years, it has gone viral various times. And so I've been featured in CNN, NBC, CBS, Telemundo, Univision, newspapers across the States, and as well as Latin America, Spain, Canada, Italy, and so on. And so there's something very human within the story too, which I'm the writer too. I do have various artists that have worked for me in the past and are currently helping me publish more El Peso Hero stories. Even though there's been some instances where I do go back and create the book myself, just because there's some pivotal stories that need my attention. For example, this March, we had a special issue for El Paso Hero defending refugees in Ukraine, and so any of the proceeds for the comic we gave those proceeds to UNICEF, to the children refugees, and that story went viral and it got a lot of great press. We got some amazing feedback from the community across the world. It was something taking El Paso Hero away from this world here to somewhere completely out of his element, character-wise, but also where there's a place of need too.
Right.
And so that was March, April. Recently, NBC News had a story on a new comic book that's coming out, El Paso Hero Sicario War. We just finished this is the omnibus, about 400 pages, complete first story arc of El Paso Hero. We're launching a new story arc. It's going to be a lot of action-packed, a lot of fun. But also we were focusing on a new protagonist, a Mexican-Chinese hero too. And so in this case, we also talked about some of the xenophobia that exists in north of Mexico and the border area as well. And also some of the history of Chinese immigrants in that area too. And some of the, specifically we highlighted an incident, historical incident. I love to base my stories on history too, either being from Texas or Mexico too. Just I feel that those are great pillars to build upon some really great stories. But go ahead.
I was going to say, in reading some of the interviews that you've done and been highlighted in, it's clear that part of what inspired you originally was just like, I had this love for these stories and comic books as a kid, but as much as I loved them, I wasn't always seeing myself represented. But as this has developed, you've really tackled some pretty poignant topics that are something you're passionate about, or like you're talking about, really enjoying getting into the history or drawing on some current issues like the issue with Ukraine. Talk a little bit about some of the places you go for inspiration, whether for ideas or art styles. Who inspires you in your work?
You know, it's definitely, I do have to pause myself, you know, and, you know, I'm surrounded in my work office, you know, I have my comics, you know, and have my long boxes here behind me, you know, and like backlog. And so I'm a huge Godzilla fan, as and so it's just I have to be in my element, my world. Also, I have to make sure that I'm reading from various authors, reading from indie books, from, you know, mainstream books as well. I know growing up, you know, I really love the story of Image Comics, you know, to these renegade talent, just, you know, breaking away from the mold and created their own. You know, I'm a huge Spawn fan, Todd McFarlane. Too, you know, just kind of that have that renegade, that maverick style of comic book making. You know, you're not going to wait till somebody makes it. You're going to make it your own, right? And so
Right.
and I draw inspiration from also my community, my friends too. You know, just listening to their struggles, listening to their journeys, you know, and making sure that we're not also helping ourselves, but we're also helping others too. Hence, Texas Latino Comic Con, you know, being a great place for upcoming talent too, you know, and also this new imprint with Scout Comics that I'm currently involved with as co-editor in chief with Chispa Comics. You know, as we have some great books coming out. You know, it's highlighting some of that talent that, you know, that's not able to hit it mainstream, you know, and making sure that, you know, not also do our opening doors for ourselves, but we're opening those doors for everyone too in our community.
I love that. Hector, hold up those titles you just flashed on the
Oh
screen.
yeah,
we can
so
take a
Matt, we got
second. What do
Mashman
we
and
got here?
Grifty. Yeah, Mashman and Grifty is coming out. Should be this December. Check it out in your comic book store. It's kind of like a detective, two detectives, kind of like Rick and Morty, set on the border. Really funny, hilarious. Also, we have a kind of a creature feature based on a upcoming movie called Black Demon. A movie should be coming out next year. We have a anthology coming out Q1 2023. So check it out. Black Demon Tales. This is a or ash can for the book.
Awesome.
We also have a horror
Awesome.
anthology too coming out Q1, and so
You
we're excited.
are a busy creator.
It just comes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Anything else you want to highlight that's coming up that we should all know about?
I know, I also work with a great company called Mass Republic. We highlight a lot of lucha libre, a lot of wrestling. I'm a huge wrestling nut myself and my brothers, and so we have some great graphic novels coming out based on actual wrestlers, IP luchadores too.
Wow.
And so just keep an eye out for Mask Republic. We also have an animation project too, as well, with Encantos coming up, and they're hooked up now with a bigger company as well. And so we're excited for how that's being developed, And so I'm writing one of the graphic novels for them currently. And so I'm excited for that. And so I go from writing horror, put on different hats, to doing El Pozo Hero, and and I also have to listen to a lot of music too, to get me by.
That's awesome. My last question for you: do you have any advice that you would give to your past self about working as a cartoonist? Something that you've learned along the way that you think, gosh, I wish I had known that?
Oh, wow. I know that early on, as an early creator, you think that mainstream comics are they're not. It's I would go on and tell myself that keep on doing what I'm doing, and that independent is freedom, and it's accessibility and storytelling too, and that it's it's where genuine stories are being created within the independent comic book scene.
I love that. Genuine stories. I think that's such a good descriptor for the work that you've done. And I really appreciate you offering to be our member spotlight. I think you've just done some fascinating work. We can't wait to see all these future projects come to fruition. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat a link to Hector's website with Rio Bravo Comics. You can check out more there, or you can Google and find him all over the place with the other work that he's talking about. So I hope that gives people a little bit of a snapshot of some of what we're all up to.